Hi, Heather.
Hi, Krista.
My internet is spotty, so this could be not a great recording. We'll see how it goes, but we'll
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 hope
do
for
our
the best.
best.
Yeah.
Um, we were just coming off of a bit of a rant about a few things. Our
As
usual
we
our
do.
usual
As we
topics,
do.
patriarchy, capitalism, as we do, all of those things. Um, but I think we've been coming into some more clarity about our purpose in the world as the center for holding space. Um, that it's both a skill building endeavor, learning how to hold space, learning how to be a grounded guide. These are all skills that can be built. But beyond just the skills, I think there's an interconnectedness to our work and um, a perspective that we take on how this all functions that is perhaps unique to other offerings out there and that separates us from the typical self-help, everything good is because you've manifested it and everything bad is because you manifested it. um like we've long been very anti toxic positivity, anti, think and grow rich type of stuff. um and we've much more focused on, yeah, like your nervous system is important, and you need to be able to attune your nervous system to others, to nature and stuff like that. But ultimately, we as human beings are not somehow removed from the systems that we are a part of, whether that be our pet peeves like capitalism, patriarchy, or just like nature, period. And you often tell the story about how when you went looking for the ecosystem of a salmon, how it struck you that humans showed up nowhere on that cycle, despite the
Yeah.
fact that we are actually intricately involved in that cycle in multiple points,
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
as people who consume salmon, but also people who impact salmon's environment, right? Like it works both
Yeah.
ways. And yet on that little diagram, humans were nowhere to be seen. um, yeah, so I'm just talk a little more about some of the ahas you've had as you have been considering our work and how it sort of
Yeah.
offers a different perspective maybe than yeah, some other similar kinds of offerings out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. This has been a growing awareness and I mean, I think we've always been conscious of it, but we're trying to articulate it even more clearly what it is that
Yeah.
the ways in which we kind of want to disrupt some of the common discourse and we kind of want to offer something, an alternative. And I think back to, I took many leadership courses, for example, back in my days of working leadership in federal government
Mm-hmm.
and nonprofit. And some of them were very good. I took some good courses and stuff like that. But consistently, what's missing from any kind of leadership program I ever participated in, and not ever, it started to evolve once I left nonprofit and I was exposed to I went to an authentic leadership in action, which was rooted in Shambhala Buddhism. Things started to shift when I was
Mm-hmm.
in that culture. But earlier on, what was missing consistently, and I see missing all the time, is a sense of the having a systems lens, being systems thinkers in all of this. And what I mean by that is that, they would give really good advice about how to be a better leader, but it was isolated from recognizing how much the culture that we're in is a patriarchal culture. So, for example, you can tell me how to be a good leader, but it's going to be different for me than for the white man sitting next to me. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
different for that person than the black man sitting next to him. It's going to be different for the person with, the queer person, neurodivergent person. Every one of us is going to have a different experience of
Hmm.
what's expected of us in the culture. But that's missing from every leadership program ever that I, participated in those early days. And what feels really true is that there, over the years of developing these systems, the macro systems, kind of the bigger systems we're part of, like patriarchy, capitalism, those, is that those systems have benefited from individualizing us
Hmm.
and treating us like whatever we need to do to succeed, to rise above, etc., is on us. And so we have
Right.
to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. We just have to follow these 10 easy rules to success, etc. And we'll get there. But let's
Right.
just ignore all of the other stuff, because if we think too much about the other stuff, we're going to want to dismantle the system that taught us that.
Hmm.
And so you can't, if you're running leadership programs that are meant for especially the capitalist market, you can't teach those leaders to want to disrupt the very thing that's making their companies run.
Right.
And so that's what you and I have been really intentional about bringing into our work is, like, you cannot understand the culture that you're leading in if you're not understanding the bigger culture that your organization is rooted in. If you're
Hmm.
not understanding how colonialism has evolved in your country, for example, how racism has evolved because of white supremacy, if none of those things are in your awareness, then you're going to be treating every leadership issue or every community issue as if it can just be taken out of a textbook,
Yeah.
and they're all going to be the same. And so and yeah, I think that's what we as the Center for Holding Space are trying really to be intentional about is, if, for example, our next module, and is what I've been working on the most recently, is a next module for our Become a Grounded Guide program is on understanding people. And so we're talking about things like nervous systems, our beliefs and biases, and our core needs and stuff like that. And you can read many books on these things. You can take many courses on any of those things. But if you don't weave in an understanding of the collective that we're part of, the systems that we're part of, then it's only ever going to allow you to go in a certain direction. It won't allow you to really make meaningful change in your spaces, in your cultures, etc. So it's a big thing we're talking about, and it's much less easy to define in simple terms. We want the things to be simple so that I know what path to take to get from A to B. But we're introducing complexity. We're introducing a bit of chaos. We're introducing, like, bigger ideas than the simple ones that keep us comfortable. Um, but we need to go there if we're actually going to disrupt and change the systems that we're rooted in.
Yeah. I think as you're speaking, what keeps coming up to me is how striking the dissonance is in a system that emphasizes individuality and yet insists individuals have to conform in a particular way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yes, it's all your fault, it's all your responsibility, but if you conform to this particular set of rules for being a man, for being a woman, for being a leader, then everything will work out, right?
yeah, yeah,
And it's just, yeah, and I think what we're inviting in is this idea that no, like, we are in a collective, but we are actually individuals within the collective with different abilities and different gifts and difference. Like, it's not homogenous, and in fact it probably shouldn't be homogenous
yeah,
in order to function well. um yeah, like, and it's, yeah, when you think about it that way, it's like, oh dang, like, the individuality we've been preached or told or emphasized about is not actually about individuality. It is about conforming to very specific
yeah,
roles
yeah,
within a system that depends on us
Yeah.
so focused on conforming to those roles that we never look at the water that we're
Yeah.
in, right?
Yeah. It's individuality that's rooted in obedience to the system
Yes,
and conformity.
100%. Yeah.
So if I want to, and that's why, and as you started out talking earlier, like some of the self-help books or the things that are
Yeah.
teaching us how to succeed in life, etc. If those things, if I don't adhere to them on an individual level, if I disobey them or something like that,
Hmm.
well, then I can be easily blamed for my own failure.
Yeah.
Then I can easily be rejected from the system because I'm not acceptable to the system if I don't
Yeah.
follow those patterns and those rules. And so it's so much more complicated. And
So
like I
much
keep
more.
keep I keep going back to the complexity of the forest. And I think
Mm,
even if you look at our scientific approach over the years, and we have tried to isolate trees to understand a tree without understanding a forest, for example.
right.
You
Hmm.
can't understand the tree, an individual tree, unless you're going to try to understand the entire forest. Because
Right.
trees are not solitary beings. Trees interact with the everything in the forest. And we're learning more and more about how the mycelium, for example, is undergirding the whole forest,
Yeah.
communicating between the trees. And all of these, like they are all interconnected. And even the
Hmm.
way that the tree is offering us oxygen and we're offering it carbon dioxide, that
Yeah.
there's there's a reciprocity there. There's interconnectedness that you can't isolate. Like it,
Yeah.
and that's like you going back to what you said about the salmon ecosystem. It's like it was so striking to find all of these diagrams without humans in them. Like what? I don't know. I'm gonna call it idiocy. What that humanity separated itself from the forest. Like we're trying to treat ourselves
Yeah.
like trees outside of a
Yeah.
forest, and it just does not work that way. We are in the
Yeah.
forest. We are woven together. We are in a relationship. We're kinship, to use
Yeah.
that language. We are in kinship with each other, and that means that we cannot understand people if we're not understanding the forest,
Yeah.
if we're not
Yeah.
understanding the system that we're part of, that we're woven
Yeah.
into. It's like, if a tapestry, you pull out one thread and you want to understand that thread. Like, well, it's only a thread. Like, you need to understand
Exactly.
the whole tapestry.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. It's like we have made ourselves alien to the very thing that we're intricately bound with, and
Yeah,
it's just, I mean, it's supremacy culture at the end of the day, like,
yeah,
period. It's a hierarchical stance that humans have taken over nature,
yeah,
over each other, and it's so destructive, and it's obviously so destructive, and until we can, like, let that go, we got to let that shit go.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
We
Like, it's such a,
we are orchestrating our own destruction. It is
yeah. And we're literally the
remarkable.
only species that is actively engaged in, like, its own extinction, which
Yeah,
is, what are we doing?
yeah. Well, it's like, I mean, one of the most blatant ways this is showing up right now is like the building of data centers all over like, let's use up all the land and resources and water so that we have better access to artificial intelligence. But
Yeah.
and then meanwhile, and you and I were talking about, we just heard not long ago about they're creating VR headsets for cows so that the cows think that they're out in the field and there's
Out in the
green grass
field.
available to them. So they can trap these cows in a barn and convince them that they're in a field. And I have to go looking for the actual research about that. But
Yeah, totally.
whatever the case, it just feels so. baffling that we are trying to divorce ourselves from that to such a degree that human supremacy, that we can destroy everything in order for to highlight and focus on our own individual success
Mhm.
and survival and in the world, and not just our own. Let's be real, it's for the rich white men to
Yeah.
secure
It's for capital,
their
period. Like
stability in the
it
world.
is, yeah, until we separate value from capital, um, we're never going to get over this, right? Because
Yeah,
even the AI, it's not about the AI, it's about extracting capital. And so much of the system that we're living in is just, it is extraction. It's pure
yeah,
extraction.
yeah,
And it's why it feels so gross and so uncomfortable, because I think we all sort of know it, even if some of us can't name it. I think if we all sort of recognize that that's what's happening, that we're living in this like vampiric kind of
yeah,
culture where we are nothing but a body at the end of the day to extract labor and
yeah,
capital from.
yeah.
And it's gross. Like it's such a gross feeling. Because
And
yeah,
it,
you get told it's all about you and you're individual and it's all your responsibility. And yet somehow I have no autonomy in the same breath to actually make decisions that I want to make because I am a tool of extraction.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Exactly. Well, and that's the way that capitalism can turn us into indentured servants,
Yeah.
essentially, or slaves to the system by
Yeah.
convincing us that it's our fault that we haven't succeeded in the system.
Yep.
You convince enough people to buy into this belief system, and it's rooted in in a belief system, in a indoctrination
Yep.
that we need to, and that's why you and I just recently listened to a podcast about a self-help influencer who's selling millions of books
Yeah.
and is essentially telling people it's their own damn fault for not being as successful as she
Yep.
is. And if you convince people of that, then those people are not going to rise up and challenge the system because they'll be
No.
so rooted in a lack of self-worth because they think
Yeah.
it's their own fault for not succeeding.
Exactly.
And which is one of the reasons when I teach, especially women, um, one of the things I push for is like, look, like you have to find your self-worth so that you are not beaten down by this system. And I think we
Yeah.
have to, I go back to Sonya Renee Taylor's book, The
Yeah.
Body is Not an Apology. Is that what it is?
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
that she talks about that a lot. It's like we have to find the value in ourselves, whatever we look like, whatever bodies we're in, so
Yeah.
that we are not exploited by this system, so that we are not told that we are less than. We're not listening to those messages. Because
Yeah.
if we're going to create new alternatives, and you and I are very committed to this idea of the Thrutopia, it's like we have to
Yeah.
begin to dream into being like we can spend, and you and I can spend a lot of time ranting about everything
Oh
that's
yeah.
wrong with the system. But if we stay in that frustration point, it only
Nothing
gets us,
changes. Yeah.
no, we just
No.
spiral into that.
No.
And absolutely it's kind of fun and it's
It's certainly cathartic, you know?
cathartic.
Yeah.
But we can't stop there. And that's
No.
where we really want to help people recognize that there are alternatives.
Yeah.
We don't
And the
have to
alternatives
stay
that are
stuck in
already
this.
happening. Like we don't even necessarily have to invent something new. You know what
No.
I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
already out there if you go looking. There are
Yeah.
matriarchal societies that still exist. There are collective
Yeah.
cultures. There are
Yeah.
social democracies. There are, like there are so many examples of ways we can do this better and that
Yeah.
don't necessarily require, you know, total obliteration of ourselves in the
No.
process.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
what we want to do. Like we want to get there to into, and maybe it won't happen in our lifetime that will transform cultures. But I'm not willing to stay stuck in what we've
No,
built. I'm not willing to
no.
stay to just accept the status quo as inevitable. I think we need to be determined to be conscientious disruptors of these systems
Hmm.
and challenge the messages we get from the system, like the fact that we don't have self-worth unless we're successful in the system. It's bullshit, and we
It
need
is.
to change that and understand the ways that we've been conditioned by the system to believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. And not, and beyond even, indoctrinated, there's, we've been bullied and like coerced into a lot of
Yeah.
this stuff, which,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you look at it that way too, then you're like, oh, ew, like I don't want to be bullied into this. I don't want to
And
be,
traumatized into it
and
too. Like it's
traumatized
living
into
in
it.
our
Yeah,
bodies as trauma
100%.
that we, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And it's something that we have to work through and hold space for each other through too. Because
yeah,
I mean, you and I in the last few years, this has been an ongoing, trauma response in us going, oh my God, are we going to have enough money to make it through this year? Are we going to
yeah,
have enough money to survive another year? Right. So we wrestle with this all of the time.
yeah,
Um, and we have not yet caved to that fear in the sense of, fa- decided to, take a pivot and start selling
yeah,
something that was outside of our integrity.
yeah.
Um, and yeah,
I
not that
think,
we're perfect, not that we're right all the time or anything like that, but yeah, there's this mutual struggle towards this Thrutopia, and we have had so many people come through our program who are just so brilliant and changing their own cultures in, in small ways, but that end up being huge down the line.
yeah. Yeah, and I think, and that goes back to what I said earlier, but we have to reclaim our
Yeah,
worth, our
100%.
inherent worth. We don't have to prove anything. We don't have to
Nope.
justify ourselves to find that worth in ourselves and in our people and in our work and hang on to that and consistently push against the tide to believe that and to hold that in our core so that we
Yeah,
can be strong enough to both disrupt and then create something new and create new beliefs in people so that we can move into a different future.
100%. 100%. Yeah, so we've got lots of good stuff where you can join
Yeah.
us in some of that ambitious work.
Yeah.
The next module, Become a Grounded Guide, starts beginning of August. So if you want to participate in that, registrations are open. We try to keep everything as affordable as we can. We've got tiered pricing, so yeah,
Yeah.
we're trying to live into our integrity that way and
And we
offer what
all
we
almost always
ask for
offer
what we
some
need. Yeah,
some version of a scholarship or something. So
totally. Yeah.
approach us, and we do have some people that donate sometimes occasionally. And if you're one of
Hmm.
those people that happens to have extra financial resources and want to support somebody without them,
Absolutely.
we are very welcoming to that. We'll find people that we can offer a scholarship
100%.
to based on your decision to
Yeah.
contribute. So yeah, there's
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And then the Holding Space Foundation program registration is open for that again. Um, we're, yeah, really sort of leaning into that as being just a vital skill that's needed as these transitions happen. We need more people who can hold space
Yeah,
and not in the cringy way, in the like,
yeah,
let's sit in the mud together, let's sit in the dark together.
yeah.
Qarrtsiluni, we talked about that concept before. You don't know what it is, Heather will put a little link
I can put a link.
in the
Yeah.
caption here. But such a wonderful grounding offering from Inuit folks. This idea of sitting together in the dark. So yeah,
Waiting
so
for
come build some
something to
skills with
emerge.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here's to the emergence or something. We'll find a good name for it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we'll try to have some fun together. I
That's
think
right.
that's something to hang on to too, that in these disruptive
Absolutely.
times, there's still joy.
Always, always joy. Um, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. All right, I'll stop now, or else I'll just carry on for another hour. Until next time.